Hey, welcome to the Growth Engine with Trice and Ryan. How are you today, buddy?
Hey, I'm good. I'm ready to roll. What about you?
I'm awesome. I'm awesome. Having a great day.
Good, good.
So, why don't you tell a little bit about the show and what our topic is today?
So, our show is about growing businesses, small businesses, medium-sized businesses. The growth engine is organization, it's branding, it's marketing, it's sales. It's the growth engine side of your business. And we choose topics each show that goes after something that will help business owners understand a topic a little bit better and maybe implement some things into their companies that allow them to scale and grow easier. So that's what the growth engine is.
Awesome.
I like taking topics right out of things happen like this week, today, and sometimes out of emails, questions that people ask, things like that. So I get this thing today, this question. It's somebody who's looking to leave their marketing agency and go to a new marketing agency. And so I asked him, like, what was the troubles with the current marketing agency, and what are you guys looking for in a new marketing agency? And they said, oh, well, we still want to use just one agency, but we need somebody to handle it all. And they need to bring fresh ideas. And we just want to give them a little bit of information and let them just go. And I said to him, I said, I think you just described the problem that you're having.
It's a good starting point for sure.
Yeah. And I think I should back up. You and I have both been in marketing a lot of the same time frames, but we've both been in CMO roles. We've both been on the agency side of things. So we see things with perspective of all sides, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's a interesting question and a interesting problem, because you as an agency, you want to be everything to the client. You want to portray yourself as like crushing it on all sides, and it's that's what you're selling. And as a CMO, you're hoping to buy that from an agency, and that's a tough situation for both sides, because the expectations are unrealistic at best. So
yeah. I think you could, back maybe 5 years ago, even definitely 10 years ago, you could hire a digital ad agency or an agency, and I think they, for the most part, could handle your needs. It was pretty simple, right? You had you needed a website, you needed SEO, social media. There really wasn't a lot of rules about social media. You needed an AdWords person that could do paid search. Really, it was only AdWords back then, right? A lot of the new formats weren't around. And so it's really like you could put these things that were needed by companies to get leads and grow their businesses were like, okay, they're in these 5 buckets, right? And so you could real easily create a small boutique agency to handle those needs for companies. And it's just not the same today, right? Like, it's way more complex.
Yeah, I before becoming a CMO, I was on the agency side, and before that on the media side. And so I have a really strong belief in media and paid. And so I lean that way. And so, as a CMO, I was heavily involved in lead gen. And so it was more in my wheelhouse. And it was not uncommon for me to say to somebody, I really need expertise in these other areas. I mean, that was the whole point. Flush out the full cycle. And the truth of it was, there's so many agencies out there that promise their ability to like pull all of this together. And the truth was it's never found an agency that was 100% beautiful at everything. And the expectation that they would be is very unrealistic. I mean, it's the same thing of like an internal team. Your internal team is not going to be full of home run hitters in every aspect of your business. I mean, that's just not how it works. And, it's unrealistic. If you're the CMO trying to hire that, you're setting yourself up for a trap, for sure.
I could not agree more. And I didn't think about that piece of it, which is, I think business owners, they think, well, it's getting expensive. I'm just going to hire everybody in and we're going to create our own marketing team. Like we could do it better, right? And I think the right in one aspect is that they might get to know the industry or their business better to be able to get content and video and things like that really easily.
Right.
But when they hire those 1, 2, or 3 people internally, or even a team up to 10, they think that they're going to know everything and do everything. And then they get frustrated when they don't. It's like, okay, wait a minute. It's the answer today, in my opinion, is it's almost always a combination.
Yeah, it is almost a combination. Like, you will find often now, like it's kind of evolved a little bit where you will find great, PPC paid type media agencies. You will find great content, PR, even video together. You'll find web, as a standalone, but because content in that overlaps so much, or SEO in that might overlap so much that it might start to blur there, or paid driving to web, it blurs a little, but the idea that you can get all of that and strategy for your entire marketing engine is, that's where the trap is, I think, because if you're a CEO and you don't have any marketing people in your business, or you have one, like you're a small business and you're growing into, you will think to yourself, I really need an agency partner. And you probably do. One, you don't know what you need them for yet. Like you might think I really need them for social media, or I really need them for paid, just because that's your first inclination of where you think you need to be from a marketing perspective. But you haven't done the work to say, I'm 100% convinced now this is the direction for us. We know what our content strategy is. We know how paid layers in. And if you haven't done that work, well, then you're just going to hire an agency. They are going to fail because you don't know what you want from them yet.
Agreed. And I think so. And the work that I do right now is,
right,
that kind of that liaison piece between like what a company needs to understand and establish before they go hire an agency, actually. And so, we go through the kind of the internal DNA of a company. Like we articulate it, we write it down in a document, and then we would take that and go, okay, now we know, here's our audience, here's where they're at, and we've gotten that far. Hey, agency, we need to hit these people with these types of messages. Now what ideas you have? Or it could be that you actually establish before you go that far. We know now that we need these types of functions. And so we really don't need a full service agency. We actually just need somebody who can really show us how to do a kick-ass podcast, and somebody who's really good at funnels and landing pages. And then somebody who understands CRMs and technology. And then might add a social media person there.
Yeah.
That is not necessarily an agency. And I think that's the part that I was trying to get across in the situation was what you have now is where I would go with this conversation, which is enters the fractional CMO role, which is it's not new, but it's becoming new to a lot of people who are learning about this role. Is instead of hiring an agency to do a couple of things really good and the rest of them like mediocre or bad, like I think it's important that people understand now, you need to actually go hire specialists that are really good at just the things that you need to really get traction, to get leads and to grow your business. So you might need to, instead of hiring a full-time CMO or marketing director, you might need to hire a fractional CMO. And I know you know a lot about this role. And we both dealt with it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've been a CMO full-time and fractional, and then also like on like boards for people, either as an advisory role or a full-time board member, where my role is as sort of like a combination between a fractional CMO and a growth strategist, and just sort of helping them look at those things. And you're 100% right. I think with the way things are moving are what companies, especially CEOs who basically are like, I'm not a startup anymore. I've sort of learned my way into what I do, but now I really need to take that next big jump. And that, that for any industry, I mean, that could be $1 million or 5 or 10, like there's some place in there in the beginning where you're like, you've done pretty well, but now we really need to figure out our marketing and take that big jump. And so many times in that situation, it's, I'm going to hire a CMO and they're going to do everything. and jack of all trades. And I'm in this trap. I do this all the time where I do everything. And it's not horrible, but it doesn't work beautifully for the business. And the reason is you hire a full-time and you expect them to do everything. They're not experts in everything. They just can't be. They're great strategists probably, and they can do some piece of it really, really well. What you should rethink and say is, I really need the strategy. I know I need that. And I need that sales marketing partnership who can be a leadership level, help me make decisions. And then the rest is, I need them then to go out and find or build a fractional or full-time team, agencies, internal combination, whatever it is, and find and build a sweet spot. Because you're like, I might not need a full-time social media person. I might not need an email person full-time. But and putting those two things together might not be the easiest thing in the world, and then like you said, technology. I might need somebody who's incredible at CRM and email, but that's probably not a full-time role. And do I want them handling social as well, or paid? These are each deep technological learning opportunities for somebody, and marketers now are really specialized. And so why not? I mean, you wouldn't hire a graphic designer who is also, I mean, I guess you could. Honestly, there are people like that are website developers.
Whatever you say,
there are out there. Yeah, but they're very rare and very expensive. Like, hey, look, I'm not looking to pay somebody, 100 or 150 an hour to do this, and they could easily if that's what they wanted. If they wanted somebody that could just do a couple of these things really well. So yeah, that's where I think a lot of people miss is your team doesn't have to be a bunch of full-time heavy hitters.
Right. Yeah. I want to back up also on something here. So I want to back up on they're looking for agency situation. You can hire an agency to do 50 to 80% of what you need done.
Oh yeah.
But you can never, I don't see it happening today where it makes sense to hire an agency for 100%. You just don't have all that talent in one agency that can do all the things well that you need done. So having an agency is fine to do certain things that they 100%. Are good at. And then having a couple other individuals. And oftentimes small business owners tell me, I don't have a full-time marketing director. I don't have anybody to coordinate all that. That's where the fractional CMO can be helpful. And the problem that I see small business owners make is they do hire that marketing director or VP of marketing or CMO. I don't care what you call them in that role. Right. I know those are different roles in different companies. But they hire that person and then they want them to do their social media posting. And I know you and I have talked about this, right? Like, what is the experience of a marketing leader that has experience? And so, what have they done? They've done all that before. They're at the point in their career where they don't want to do that stuff anymore. They're going to want to have somebody else they hire, or they're going to want to farm it out. But don't hire a CMO type with experience and expect him to run your paid search, to do your social media and do copywriting. He's going to be good. Like you said, he's going to be good at strategy. That's his experience. And he's going to be able to direct others. Well, that's the type of guy you're looking for. He can manage that marketing agency relationship, the web agency. He can work with these independent freelancers, Upwork. A lot of people like to use that today. They can do all that piece and then be the true executive on your board to help you make growth decisions. If you're big enough to do that. Otherwise, you need to be working with somebody full-time, like outside, right?
Yeah, it's a great way to utilize efficiency. If you're growing into your business and you're not a huge organization yet, it's the way to start. And the same would be for the roles that you're hiring, either in as an agency or internal, is hire somebody full-time when your need hits a certain point. And until then, if you're like, hey, I want somebody that's 20 hours a week for social media management. That's perfect, man. Good. That's exactly what you should do. Somebody really gets it. Somebody's got expertise. The great part about hiring people with expertise that's deep in an area is, and this is what I tell people when they're looking at agencies. You hire an agency for two things: speed and expertise. And that's it. They have something you don't want to hire for, or you can't afford to hire for. They do. And they can ratchet up much faster than you can. That's the whole point. So you're like, hey, look, I need social and I need paid. Those might be two different people. And your marketing leader, whoever that is, their job is to help you vet those people, help you onboard them, help you manage them, and build a strategy that suits your business. I like to tell people all the time that when they're like, what's the job of a CMO? It's a translator. My job is to translate business problems into marketing solutions. That's it. And manage the people then that execute and be the voice of reason between the C-suite, the sales organization, and the marketing organization, whatever that looks like. And that to me is really where a CMO, fractional CMO, where the rubber hits the road right there, because your job is your context for business is much deeper and wider than most people. You should understand the business you work for. That's the point, is the better you do, the better you're going to get, the more you're going to get out of your marketing in the long run.
Yeah. So yeah. I was thinking as you're talking about this, I'm thinking like the revenues that start to come into play with different leadership roles. And I was thinking about all the companies that I've worked with. And I was thinking, marketing coordinator makes really great sense when you're like 3 million and under in revenue. And when that marketing coordinator has an outside person to lean on for strategy and leadership, because they're not experienced enough. And I think a lot of business owners lean on them and they get disappointed that their coordinators they don't have any strategy or creative.
Yeah.
That's not their role. They're coordinator, right? They're learning. They haven't gone through that experience. And I think somewhere in between like 5 and 10 million is where you start making your first, like, maybe leadership hire as the marketing director, roles, VP of marketing type of thing can come into play. But even then, sometimes you could get away with a fractional CMO still.
Oh yeah. Yep.
I think I've seen where companies could actually get away with hiring, keeping lean and efficient, hiring specific things they know they need full-time internally on the marketing roles and tasks.
Yeah.
Up to about 25 million. And I've seen where they can do that. And then at 25 million and up, almost always I've seen where they do need that full-time marketing leadership, period. Yep. Now, it doesn't mean that even at that realm, at the 25 million and up, and I've worked in companies that are like, 40 to 50 million, where I was a CMO, but I could have used an outside, fractional CMO for something like CRM type of work, setup, automations, things like that I didn't have a lot of hands-on experience in, of really knowing what I was doing. And I think that's the difference today. Today, you can't get by with knowing a little bit about it. There's so much technology, and it takes so much strategy and technology working together. Having experts really benefits the team. And so you can still stay lean and spend very little and hire these fractional roles or specialists and get where you need to go and have all the technology and all the systems and processes in place to generate leads and growth for your business.
Yeah. The way I look at it is, do you want to get a lot done? If you do, it's much better for you in the long run. And I know this is completely contrary to the way business actually does it. That's why we're making this point today.
Yeah.
Because the idea that you're like, hey, I could hire a social media, an email, a CRM, a paid search, a web developer, fractional for each of those, a fractional leader, and I will get a ton out of those, because what the opposite of that is, I hired a leader, maybe I have a coordinator, and they're trying to do all of those things, and they're just okay at all of them. Versus I hired somebody 10 hours a week, 15 hours a week to be awesome at one thing and to coordinate with the leader. And that's it. It's so much faster to the point of execution at a good execution, especially if you do that, especially the more technology there is, nowadays, like the ability to schedule a social and monitor and measure that is incredibly complicated. CRMs are tough, and if paid can be very tough. And if you just don't have expertise in those things, man, you're putting yourself at a disservice. And your CMO, frankly, you don't want them doing all that stuff, because that's not why you hired them, and that's not what they want to do. And they're going to burn out and they're going to churn, just like your agency will. That's exactly the same.
Yeah. And turnover in the CMO roles is a lot of why we're talking about this today too. Is
absolutely
why fractional CMOs make sense, because those CMO roles, They're hiring for actual projects or things that the agent or the company needs. They're hiring for that to get done. And when that's done, they really don't need that guy anymore. They're hiring CMOs today, and consultants are telling them to do this. The business consultants are saying, hire a CMO that's good at insert thing, right?
Or that's got a bunch of industry experience. You're
right.
Whatever industry you're in, hire some CMO that's got a ton of industry experience and bring them in.
And they come in, they make their changes, they implement processes and things and campaigns, and I go, okay, thank you. And I mean, I see it about around 12 months. Gears. I see about 12 months is about the average that I'm seeing for CMO roles right now. And I talk to them, CMOs all the time, and I say, don't you want to go to a fractional CMO role? Like you can actually control when you're going to go in and out of that company, so you can plan it versus thinking you're going to go into this business and you're going to have this lifetime career. It doesn't work that way anymore, hardly ever.
It doesn't.
Right? And so I'm like, do it on your own watch, plan it. And also the CEO and the CMO both will be on the same page about what's going to take place and the things that are expected to be implemented. I don't know.
It's also funny as a CMO from an agency's perspective, because what often happens is you hire an agency and you hire them for even just one specific thing. And they've got a ton of expertise and they come in with all these new ideas, this new way of doing things, and you really buy in and the CEO really buys in. And what naturally happens, and this is the same thing that happens to CMOs that are full-time, is somewhere between 18 months and 36 months, the CEO starts to say to themselves, one, can we do this in-house? And two, can't we do this better? Isn't there somebody out there that can do this better? And once that question creeps into their mind, it's over.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of time. So as a CMO, I'll give you an example. I was the head of marketing, director of marketing, head of marketing, CMO role for roughly about 8 years at a company. Mm-hmm. And in that time period, we evaluated and fired 3 agencies, and all they did was either web development or PPC or both. And that's the only piece of our business they focused on, which the lead generation was a heavy part. And naturally, just almost 2.5 years to the minute, it would be the leader of the business at about 2 years would say, isn't there anybody out there that can do this better? And why do our competitors do this and that and this and that? And they start the question mark. And by 2.5 years, the agency was out and we were pulling in somebody new. And the new perspective was great. And sometimes it was very helpful. But at the end of the day, it's the same cycle. It's going to happen again. It happened 3 times in basically 8 years. And at the beginning of that, I was personally managing our PPC. And at the end of that, I was personally managing our PPC, $1.2 million. You're like, so that's the cycle. And if you're a CEO, that's the trap that you set yourself up for. Because if you go all in on an agency that can do it all, you can't help but get to a place with, I'm not sure. And you're way more loyal, frankly, to a marketing staff of people that are yours than you are to an agency partner. And rightfully so, I guess. But I think to your point, that's why the CMO leadership role turns over so much. That question hits them just as much as it hits an agency, because you're like, well, yeah, I like this way we're doing it, but isn't there a better way?
So we have represented a lot of this discussion through a CMO's eyes. I'm going to introduce this through a CEO's eyes. Okay. And I've been a CEO. I've worked next to CEOs a lot. I grew up in a family business. I understand their viewpoints. So from his eyes or her eyes, they look at the agency and they're judging them on results of what's happening from a lead quantity and sales, right? And then he's judging, like, maybe, does it feel good? Do I like working with them? Like, he's looking at all these different things, right? The truth is, through CEO's eyes, he has seen probably more marketing failures than he has successes.
Probably.
And so in general, CEOs are skeptical of marketing. They're skeptical
Yep.
of marketing people. And as marketers, you try to detach, well, that's just the way they think about marketing, not me. That's not true. They actually put you in the same category.
Yeah.
And marketing has not always done well for him. And so you have a lot to prove. And I think that whether you're internal CMO or fractional CMO, I think that you're only as good as your network of professionals. What I like about the fractional role is you can pick and choose who you work with and what freelancers or what people you want to bring onto your team who are really good with the things that the company needs accomplished to get to their goals, very specific things, right? You
Yeah.
go to an agency, you're just praying that what they have indoors or in their agency is what matches what you need. You're praying, because rarely do you know before you walk into hire an agency the things that you need. You think you do, but you don't,
Yeah.
because you didn't do the proper upfront research and understanding of what really needed to happen. And then that agency is going to try to spend the things they do and the expertise they have to match this thing that you actually don't even have defined. The odds of actually having success in that scenario are, I don't
Yes.
know, they're low. They're like 20% are low.
Yeah. So you're
yeah.
hitting a fantastic point, because you're like, not only uh, understanding your strategy and being on the same page with your marketing leader being so important as the first step before you start building out your in-house team or vetting an agency, either one. That's the most important part, because if you don't agree on your strategy and agree that your strategy needs 2 years, 3 years to develop,
Mhm.
you're not going to build a social strategy and a paid strategy and an influencer strategy all on the same day, for one. And the way they layer together and the way they help each other isn't going to happen, like immediately. It's going to take some flush. And so you're going to have to work through it. And that learning curve is hard. That alone might take 18 months. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so if you said, "Hey, I'm gonna sit on this for 18 to 36 months," and at 18 months, I expect us to be at a place where I feel really good about what we're doing, and now we can see our results from 18 to 36. That's a good measurement, I think. But to be honest, from a CEO's perspective, like you're talking
Yeah.
about, it's
Yeah.
on you to set yourself up for that success. Because if you just hire or start firing, and like, shooting ideas and defining strategies without that first, you're trapping yourself for failure. And you might have a lot of success, you might get revenue growth, but it may not be because of your marketing, which it fuels your fire of like, marketing doesn't work, you know what I mean? And or I can't trust them to do it the way it should be done versus the way I think it should be done, and all those questions come in there. And you're so right. If you hire a strategic person, have the deep conversation, flush all the things out, really know who you are as a business, and say, I know who we are. I know our value. I know what our sales proposition is. We really do know ourselves, and we can take this next step now of integration with the salespeople, bringing on the right kind of marketing assets, people, budget, messaging. Then you actually have a real plan. Otherwise, you're just shooting from the hip based on experience. Not like you know your business. It's not that you don't. You haven't gone through the process of articulating it in a way that helps you take it to the next level.
So I want to bring two things together that we talked about here. You talked about the strategy, and a lot of marketing strategies do take time to mature and develop. If it's over 6 months, even though the CEO might agree to it, it's disaster for you as the marketing person. Because what did I say the average time frame of a CMO in a position is? 12 months or less is what I'm seeing happen out there right now, right? I mean, I placed some CMOs in fractional CMO positions and full-time CMOs, and it's a short cycle. And so you don't have the time. So this is, I think, a lesson for marketers out there. You better get your formulas and secrets. You better be doing your A/B split testing. You better get those things written, documented, and you better get some formulas that are going to produce fast for whatever it is that you're doing, that you claim you have expertise in doing. Because you've got to understand, you don't have time. You're not taking a job to go sit in a seat and burn dollars and time and hours for today's CEO. He does not have the patience for it. He won't deal with it. So when you claim you're good at X, you better be bringing in a formula and processes and ideas to accomplish that, and to do it, getting traction very fast in any company, in any position you're doing. If you think you're going to have that position and you're going to be able to tell the CEO, let's measure again in 6 months or 12 months or 18 months, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah. I mean, while I wholeheartedly as a CMO think ideally your window of real change opportunity is between 18 and 36 months, the honest truth is you're very unlikely to make it to 24.
Yeah.
So you better fucking get it right, like right from the gate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, just going to your point, like, man, having a great conversation with the CEO at the early stages allows a CMO to say, I understand what our goals are, and I understand who we are, and I understand what the expectations are. Now he or she can build a real marketing strategy that's built to hit those things, timelines for integrations of all those things, and then hire to suit those needs, whether that is internal or external. Frankly, without that really honest conversation up front, not even, which starts in the hiring process, obviously, but having that conversation and taking that first like 30 to 90 days to really, really know it. And the closer to 30 you are, the better off you are. The more you know that, and then you can build a really strategy that says, we need an agency that can help us do this. Mm-hmm. We need external partners to help us do this. We need an internal partner that helps us do these things. That's where you start to layer success in, because then you understand what's the most important. For if you're working for a company that's grown, they're at the $50 million range, and you come in or bigger, right? And you come in as a CMO, there's a lot more sort of brand and hiring expectation of like sending out the message of who we are. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a different kind of marketing ask than, we are a transactional business. We need to create leads and churn volume. We need people going out and servicing customers every day. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a different beast, and content, everybody talks about it. And I'm a huge believer in demand generation as a marketing sort of strategy, but it's a grind and it's hard. And if you're not really, really good at it and you don't get some traction quick, it's going to be a tough road for you, because CEOs don't have that. They're not going to sit and let you tell them, we have great content, we have great SEO, let's just wait for Google to catch up with us. No, I wish that was the case. I really do, but it's not. So you better be amplifying that some way.
I started the LinkedIn group for CMOs, the CMO growth experience. And it's amazing when we have those calls that we do monthly in there. It's the levels of CMOs there are so far in experience, are so far few, like between you can have somebody who has 2 years of experience in marketing, and they're at a CMO level, and they are more of a facilitator, right? In that situation, you can have somebody who has 30 to 50 years. I mean, they're senior level, right? And neither one of those things tells you anything about the success. You might need somebody with industry experience. You might need somebody with HubSpot experience or Salesforce experience. And I think that's why I grew that network out, was because I was trying to say, hey, if somebody needed something very specific, I could go find them. And so then I think about the reverse process, the way that it happens today. A business goes to hire a CMO. They go and find who's out there right now. They don't go through the process of figuring out what they need specifically, so that they know how to go out there and fish for that specific type of CMO. They could be doing it in an area, in a city, and be trying to get somebody that lives right there in their city, and actually only have 3 to 5 choices of CMOs. Yeah. Does those 3 to 5 choices have the experience of what you need, the years, the industry experience? Do they have the technology experience today? And do you like them? Do they fit with your culture? The odds of that happening are so small. And I think that's why fractional CMOs do make sense, and why pulling and finding a network of CMOs to pull from to place is really important for the success of both, the company and the CMO both.
Yeah, I love that point a lot. It's 100% true. I think the downside is that's a learning opportunity for a CEO. Like before you ever go down this road, recognize you probably have some preconceived notions about your industry, and you probably know your industry really well because that's why you're in it. At the same time, you're not a marketer, and no marketer is going to bring you 100% of everything. Like it's just not possible. And the best choice you can make for yourself is to say, if I just take a pause and really reflect on my culture, the kind of person that's going to fit with me and in this culture, and sort of check my preconceived notions at the door and bring somebody in that's going to help me decide what the best marketing strategy is as a fractional person, especially, and then build that. Man, that is just a giant advantage, and absolutely the opposite of how everybody else is doing it. And that's where I think from a CEO, you might be the smartest person in the room if you can figure out that that's the way to do it, because otherwise you're projecting what you think is the answer on somebody. And the truth is, you can't know what's going on in marketing from a technology perspective alone. That's just way so far down the road now. I mean, there's like 500 different companies now that with the MarTech stack, as they say. So. I mean, you and I have been doing this for 25 plus years. The last 10 of which have been a lot of technology, and we still don't know half of what the stuff is that's out there.
No.
So. No. I really love the idea that if a CEO can really come in with a really unique mindset like that, God, man, they get way ahead of the curve fast. They really do.
And I think like if I had a goal like of this conversation, it was that both CMOs and COOs would come out of this going, there's more to this than what we've experienced so far. There's more options we need to consider. And I would wrap this up with saying, CEO, do you need a project done that you can hire an individual, a specialist, or an agency that specializes in that? Do you need a part-time fractional CMO to come in and help you, work with the agency, delegate with freelancers and what have you? Or have you really gotten big enough? You really need that full-time guy to come in and you want to put that person on the payroll. It's expensive, right? He's going to be on the leadership team, and that's okay with a certain size of company. Just don't do it too quickly, right? And so where do you need that at? And then, what are the needs of the company, and what are the different talents you need to hire outside to help you get to where you need to go? And I want to wrap up with this piece of it, because if you don't understand what those things are, I mean, you don't know what you need. I mean, that's where you need to hire somebody to come in and take a look at, do a needs assessment and help you with that piece of it, because it will save you so much money. And because that's what you want as a CEO, you want to be efficient, save money, but you're going to get the results you're looking for that you've had decades of failing for you when it comes to marketing people and marketing departments and strategies. That's why it's been a mismatch of what you needed and what you've done.
Yep. 100%. That's true. Great wrap up. You're exactly right. Hopefully everybody out there gets some great perspective from different angles of this, whether you're the agency, whether you're the CMO, whether you're the CEO. They're all opportunities here to really learn about how to really partner with somebody, because that's really what it's about, is figuring that out and working forward.
Great. Well, just like always, every time we've gotten on a conversation, you name the topic, you and I can roll with it. That's why we started doing this, right? I think we were on phone calls or Zoom meetings on different topics, and we're like, did we record that? And we did, and we're like, darn, that would have been a great episode. So, well, we actually are really short on this one. We're under 2 hours, so we're way ahead of the curve. So there you go. Everybody benefits. That's right. All right. Good stuff. All right. See you next time.